Hello, I am a serious man, and I am going to be doing a reaction video to my movie review of Resident Evil. Welcome to Racoon City, and here we go.
So I just got finished watching Resident Evil Welcome
I'm
to
at the bus
Raccoon
stop here,
City.
right after watching the movie.
Fresh take on my viewpoint coming up in 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to A Serious Man. This is gonna be my video review
If you
of
want to call it that.
Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I've got to say I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Okay, so I was I was very generous to this movie. And the truth is, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it because I think my expectations were so low that and because I have very low standards, that I did enjoy the movie. But
Um,
there it is. Welcome to Racoon City.
Welcome to Raccoon City essentially covers the stories from Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica.
Okay, so covers the stories. It's mostly just the first two games that are mashed together, and Resident Evil 3 is essentially there's like one story or two story elements that fit in. Pretty much Resident Evil 3 cannot be covered at all in this series now because there's certain things that happen in the game that can't happen. Because because they combine the stories of the first two games. Jill is at the mansion at the same time that the police station's under attack and all of that stuff happens. So you can't get that single solo story of her escaping Raccoon City. So that part's gone. As far as Code Veronica, there are certain elements of the story that are kind of brought in, certain events. But the location's not there, and the thing that brings the characters there aren't there. So it's kind of a hodgepodge.
It takes all the narrative strands from all those four movies, from those four games,
No, it doesn't.
and it condenses them and puts them all in one movie. So one of the things, and it's amazing how close it is to the video.
Okay, yeah. It's close to the video games. Now, what I meant by this, I think, is that there are images that are direct references to moments in the game. There are elements. There's definitely a visual similarity. There's sets that are like brought in there just to be like, whoa, and there are like Easter egg moments. But a lot of things have changed by combining the stories, but also the characters. We'll get into that later.
Games. Despite the fact that a couple of characters, namely Jill Valentine and Leon S. Kennedy, don't really look like their characters from the games.
They don't look
a little off.
No, they don't. So yeah, yeah, Jill Valentine does not look anything like the character from the game. I have to admit, I'm not the biggest, Jill Valentine is not my favorite character. And I don't know that she's all that deep of a character to begin with. I think a lot of people were upset with the race swap, which now in this picture it's a little harder to tell because this is from the video game remake, and so she's darker or whatever. But to me they didn't change her character so much. I don't know that I don't know how much depth there was to that character to begin with. So I don't know that they really did. There was one scene in the beginning when you're first introduced to them, and you have their police officers, and they're kind of messing around with the gun the way that, and which doesn't seem realistic at all, or something that any police officers would do. Yeah, so maybe she looks a lot different, and I think that'll upset some fans, a lot of people. I don't know that wasn't a big sticking point for me. But what I failed to mention in the review, which is inexcusable, was that was that even though Leon, yeah, looks a little different, and they did the costume and everything, and you could argue, but another review I was watching, they joked because it was the same thing. It was the same thing that I thought of. The minute I saw it, I was like, "Wait, is that Carlos from? Was it Carlos from Resident Evil 3? No, it's not. That's Leon Kennedy. No, it's not." The biggest thing they did, and the biggest disappointment, was the way that they screwed up Leon's character. And he becomes just a dumbass and a clown and a completely waste of a character, which is a big difference.
But I really liked the way they did the Redfields. The girl played Claire was good.
So yeah, Claire Redfield, I think, actually she's always been my favorite character. So it was kind of I thought they handled her pretty well. She's a capable, competent character and independent, and that part was good. But I felt like they missed a lot by. I felt like they had to do what they do in the movies now, which is in order to make the female character look like she's so much more competent, they have to tear down a character like Leon, like to make him look so goofy and out of place, which was not necessary because, she holds her own and she stands out. And even though whether she looks like the character or not, I don't know. I thought I liked it. One of the other reviews I was listening to made a big point. They called her Soccer Mom Claire, because she's a bit older, but that's not. She's more my age anyway. So, but yeah, I was okay with that character. I think probably the best point of the movie.
And her character was pretty close to the original, even though one of the things they did in the movie, and it starts very early, is that they linked Claire and Chris very early to Umbrella, back to the orphanage where they grew up. And there's elements of Code Veronica that come in and involving like the Ashford twins. Oops, spoiler.
And the orphanage, that's kind of the hospital that they grew up
in,
that was connected.
They condense what they did is the video games. The video games are pretty light on story.
Okay, so yeah, that's true.
And so what the movie does is it basically takes all of the story elements, or many of the story elements from 4 different games, and then squeezes them together into one movie, which actually works best because there's really not enough story for one movie.
Alright, so what I meant by that, of course, was that, well, not of course, maybe, but what I meant was that each individual game doesn't really have a lot of story, enough to, like, base a movie off of each game. And this is where I might have actually be wrong in my first opinion, because if you're gonna make I guess you could have made a series of movies where you took each game and you slowed it down, and so you got the pacing and you got the tense setting and the horror elements, and you could have done it one movie at a time. With this cast, with this writing, you might not have got a sequel. So, I don't know. I'm a little divided on that aspect, like whether you get more story in, But one of the things they got by mixing all the stories is that they lost any chance of doing Resident Evil 3 because Jill's at the mansion at the same time that everything's going on at the police station. They escape together, so there's no prospect for Nemesis and any of that. And they also dropped the ball because they didn't really get into the aspect of Umbrella. Like they kind of mentioned. So they did mention Umbrella and the virus and how they're the corporation, all that. But as far as the aspect of Umbrella and their mercenaries and everybody, the way they clean up, that's not really other than the fact that you have them at the border keeping people from leaving or whatever. But anyways, let's go on with this.
From the video games, I mean, you could expand on things and do stuff,
definitely.
But they did a really good job, I think, of like condensing a lot into one movie, which is what I think they should have done in the first one. Instead of just creating their own separate universe. I didn't really care for the first one. And then sort of later bringing in characters.
The whole series I didn't really care for.
Instead, so they tie everything in. Which,
tie everything
is good. And there's a lot.
Oh, how good that was.
There's a lot of Easter eggs and references to the games. The production design I thought was pretty good.
That's true.
Just having those moments where the sets just bring you back to the games, and it makes a lot more sense. In some cases, it makes more sense because in the games sometimes the mansion, you have a police station and sewer. There were no sewer. They didn't go in sewers really.
They had a tunnel.
But the way you have a police
police
station and then a mansion and all the stuff that kind of like crammed together, but.
Yeah, but they still had that kind of because they had the connection.
They combined elements from the first two games particularly, and like put them together. And basically, Resident Evil 3 they basically just skipped right over.
That's it.
The only thing is, except for there are a couple elements, but for the most part,
they destroyed Racoon City.
They skipped over Resident Evil 3. But there are elements of story from Code Veronica, and like I said, they condense parts of the story. So, for example, in the video games, Leon is coming into town, and he comes in just after the apocalypse or whatever, and the police station is destroyed. In this movie, Leon it's his first day on the job. Like in the games, but because he gets introduced to everybody. He's part of the state. He's part of the crew. At the same time that Alpha Team goes out,
Bravo Team,
as in the first game, they go to the mansion, and from the police station. So all of those little elements are put together, which is good because the video games really don't have the story, the depth of story to fit into one movie.
Well, into one game.
I mean, the games were great. The games were great because they were all about atmosphere and exploration and puzzles, and the story was really secondary. But it felt like there was a lot.
The story was secondary, but the background, all of the little pieces that you picked up, like in, to show all the little incidental details, putting together the secrets and everything, that stuff. But as far as like strict narrative, pretty shallow.
But it was all about the atmosphere and the horror elements and all that stuff's there. And like I said, there are images and shots that will reference right back to the games. So if you grew up and you were a fan playing the games, then
if you were a fan playing the games, you're probably going to get pissed off by what they did with Leon, by a lot of the elements about how much of a Wesker is not he's kind of a sissy in this one, and it's not a scary movie. I mean, if you're really into horror, like classic horror, you're probably not going to be it. I could say that. I mean, I'm not a huge horror buff, but I've seen a lot, and there's nothing in this movie that was like, oh my god, shock and awe. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it.
Be a lot to like in the movie, and there's a little tease that there could be more in the future, because there is a mid-credits scene which I won't reveal, but
Ada Wong!
as the movie was ending, I remember thinking there was one
Wesker's
character.
alive!
There's one character that wasn't in it, but
Ada
shows up in the
Wong!
mid-credits scene, and there might be something coming for it in the future. But we'll see. But overall, I enjoyed it. I mean, it didn't really blow me away.
Of course not. And it didn't.
The way it started, it was kind of. They have a slightly different, as I recall, like a different origin for Chris and Claire.
Which was okay. I like that. It was
and
fun.
Their relationship's a little different. I know it was strained.
Yeah,
in the
they
games,
haven't seen each other
it was kind of hinted at. Anyways, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and it's a good movie if you like the games.
Okay, no, not a good movie generally, and especially if you like the games. I think there's a lot of nostalgia there and a lot of moments in the back, so I did like that. If you really sit back and you think about it, I was way too generous with this. If you really sit back and think about it, like, not so good. And the things that took me out of the movie that I just tried to overlook, like, Leon Kennedy being the total dumbass and completely incompetent. And then when he brings out the rocket launcher and he basically fires the rocket launcher in the train, and they should all be dead. All the characters should be dead, but they walk out. They walk out fine. They're okay. So yeah, I overlooked a lot. I'll have to give my review. I have to give my review of this movie a 4. I mean, my review is a 4, and the movie, if I'm gonna have to give it a number now, I would do like 4. 4. Yeah, not horrible. It is horrible, but it's not horrible. Like it could have been a lot worse. It could have been like just a rehash of like the first movie that they did. So that they could have done that. But
there's a lot to like here.
Yeah.
There's signs that there could be more to come.
Like
and
I did enjoy it though.
Overall, I think it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into the horror genre,
nope. If you're into the horror genre, you're probably not gonna like it because it's not scary. But okay, that was my review. So anyway, that was my review of Resident Evil. Welcome to Racoon City, and that was my re-review. Tell me what you like. If leave comments, like the video, unlike the video, comment, subscribe. I don't care. Whatever whatever you do.